If you're a regular viewer of our channel, you likely also love a good mosey around a cemetery from time to time, especially if you're a history buff as well. And we all know about the large European garden cemeteries like Highgate or those in New Orleans, which are stunning. But in this video, we're going to look at some of the strangest and most unique cemeteries out there that maybe you can put on your list to visit. Before we begin, we post death and dying related videos every Friday, so if that sounds like your kind of thing, consider subscribing to the channel. Now let's talk the strangest cemeteries around the world. Despite what it looks like, this cemetery is not just floating around the bay. It's a very tiny island off the northern shore of Venice, Italy. San Michele Cemetery has been Venice's principal cemetery since its creation in 1807. At the time, like many European cities around that same time, it was decided for hygiene reasons that cemeteries needed to be outside the city limits. San Michele has been under continuous use since then as a main burial ground for Venice for over 200 years. Space is tight though, and therefore cemetery management put graves up for a lease of 12 years, recycling communal plots following this lease expiration by removing skeletal remains and transferring them to an ossuary. Ever wondered where a leading member of a drug cartel would be buried? No? Yeah, me neither, but now we know. These gaudy, over-the-top tombs, many equal to the size of a house, are often equipped with 24-hour air conditioning, Wi-Fi, CCTV, hot tubs, bedrooms, kitchens, home cinemas, and other comforts for the family who come to visit their remains. The majority of these tombs cost over $500,000, some into the millions of dollars. These tombs are not the only occupiers of this cemetery. There are regular burials there as well, scattered throughout. But there are at least 50 of these mega tombs that have taken over. Impressive? Yes, but for obvious reasons, perhaps best not to visit this one in person. Okay, this one's just for funsies, no bodies involved. The Flavour Graveyard is located at Ben & Jerry's factory in Waterbury, Vermont. Yes, there is an actual Flavour Graveyard on a hill overlooking the factory, complete with granite headstones and witty epitaphs for each flavour. It was originally erected in 1977 and originally held just 4 flavours, but expanded to 35. The company says, with over 30,000 annual visitors to the factory, we're guessing that as many as 250,000 mourners pay their respects at the Flavour Graveyard each year. The people of Sagada in northern Philippines follow a unique burial ritual. The elderly carve their own coffins out of hollow logs. If they are too ill to do that, then the family prepares it for them. The dead are placed inside their coffins and the coffins are brought to the cave for burial. Now, the reasons the coffins were hung was due to the belief that the higher the dead was placed, the greater chance their spirit had of reaching a higher nature in the afterlife. And the Sagada people are not the only ones who use this type of burial. Hanging coffins are also found in parts of China and Indonesia. The owner of New Lucky Restaurant faced a conundrum when he purchased the property. The floor was covered in exposed sarcophagi, reportedly dating back to the 16th century. But that didn't stop him from following his dream of becoming a restaurant proprietor. He just built the dining room around it. And now people eat their meals, attempting to ignore the fact that they're dining with the dead. However, the restaurant is going really well. The graveyard at Nicholas Orthodox Church in Alaska is filled with more than 100 colourful burial sites. These spirit houses are about the size of a large dollhouse. After Russian Orthodox missionaries started arriving at the native village in around 1830, burial traditions of the two groups started commingling. Before the missionaries' arrival, the Athabascan people cremated their deceased, a process that would allow their spirit to make their journey onwards. But because orthodoxy forbids cremation, it became common practice for family members to instead construct these houses above the grave so the spirit would have a place to go until they were ready to make their next step in their final journey. We've mentioned this one in other videos, but in case you missed it, in a particular village in Indonesia, when a baby dies, they are buried inside the trunk of a living plant so that they can be absorbed into nature. Villagers hollow out holes in huge tree trunks before wrapping the deceased child in cloth and placing the infant inside. Somewhat similar to that of the Mexican cemetery that we mentioned earlier, but without the crime. On the outskirts of the eastern Serbian village are the elaborate mausoleums resembling small bungalows, which are fully furnished with tables, a couple of chairs, pictures of the family hanging on the walls, and flower pots both inside and on the porch. Some even have electricity inside. The strange custom of building houses instead of tombstones began in the late 1960s, when a labourer who had made a fortune working overseas returned home and decided to build a magnificent mausoleum for himself. Others thought it was a good idea to show off their wealth as well, and now there are more houses than tombstones in the cemetery. The village, located about 100 kilometres east of Belgrade, is home to around 1,800 people, many of them elderly. The majority of the younger population went to work abroad in the 70s and 80s, sending money back home that allowed the village to prosper. The money went into building new homes, and competition was fierce amongst the builders as to who could build the most grand over-the-top house. And once they all had homes, well, the same competition went on in the local cemetery. And this phenomenon is not unique to this particular village. There are many of them in villages around Serbia. Hi all! If you're enjoying this video, please show us some love and click the like and subscribe buttons below. And if you really like it, perhaps consider sharing it with others. Let us know if you're adding any of these to your cemetery list. Bye! France's oldest pet cemetery is located just outside of Paris and was created in 1899 in a similar style to the grand cemeteries of the time. In the beginning, it was simply a way for the wealthy to bury their dogs after it became against the law to bury them at home or throw them into the river. But over the years, it has accumulated the burials of many dogs, at least one horse owned by the lady who created the cemetery, cats, birds, rabbits, mice, hamsters, fish, turtles, even cows, pigs, chickens, sheep, and a lion, a lemur, and a phoenix fox. This one is odd. It's a cemetery located within an amusement park called X-Caret. I don't know if I pronounced that right. To quote the website, X-Caret is everything you're looking for on your vacation. A water park, theme park, amusement park, eco-archaeological park, and more. It has a privileged location in the middle of the jungle with natural settings such as underground rivers, cenotes, and mesmerizing Caribbean Sea. In addition, X-Caret is the only one among the theme parks in Cancun and Riviera Maya that celebrates Mexican history, tradition, and folklore with such a magnitude. This place looks amazing. I've never actually been one for amusement parks, and I've never thought of going to Mexico, but this one could definitely get me there. It includes a lot of typical water rides and attractions, but also 2 Mexican-style chapels, pre-Hispanic village, typical 19th century Mexican mansion, and traditional wine cellar. And to be clear, no, there are no actual bodies buried in the cemetery, or so they say, but it is a great way of incorporating death and culture into such a family-friendly place. A long time ago now, we did a video about the tallest cemeteries in the world, as many places try to find a way of dealing with the amount of bodies that they need to dispose of with the faith of the area. And the first was this one in Santos, Brazil in 1983. It's 14 stories high, has a total of 1.8 hectares of land, and contains 16,000 graves. There's also crypts, a room to hold services, a crematorium, a mausoleum, a tropical garden complete with waterfall, and a small rooftop cafe to take in the view. Strangely, there's also a classic car museum on the property as well, and I assume maybe someone buried there was a classic car collector. On 9th of June 2021, the Garden of Africa was opened. Built as a memorial resting place in Zaza's southern Tunisia for the many migrants drowned while crossing the Mediterranean Sea. The Garden of Africa is a non-denominational cemetery, garden and DNA database. There is a small residence for the caretaker, a morgue, a doctor's office, and a prayer room that form the architectural components of the walled complex. The morgue contains state-of-the-art facilities to help identify the badly decomposed bodies that wash ashore and were previously left to decay. A DNA test is carried out on each of the bodies before burial. The results are recorded on the tombstone along with the date and place of the shipwreck and some identifying signs such as age, sex or clothes. This data will be essential for family members to be able to, hopefully one day, to locate them. What other strange or unique cemeteries are out there that you know of? And have you visited any of these ones in person and what did you think? Let everyone know in the comments. And with that, go talk death.